All right, we'll get this meeting started. Excuse me, 7:01. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. The motion,
So moved.
So moved. Support.
moved and supported. Any additions or deletions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Second item on tonight's agenda is public requests and comments. This is one of two public comment sections on our agenda, one at the beginning, one at the end. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand and wait till you're called upon. When you are, please state your full name and your address. Please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes, and all comments should be directed solely to the board. And again, if you speak at the beginning, you can't speak again at the end. So only one opportunity per night. So Lane, go ahead and take it away.
Haney?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You're up, Eric.
Oh, hi, this is Eric Haney. I live at 5950 Patriots Way, East Lansing. I am a teacher at Mason High School. I'd like to take a minute this evening and just say thank you to each and every one of you, Mr. Beebe, Mr. Creamer, Mr. Dwayne, Ms. Evans, Mr. Mumby, Mr. Kelly, and Mr. O'Connor. You guys have been thrust into a crazy situation that no one could have ever imagined. Mr. Dwayne, I can't believe you signed up for this because you knew what you were getting into. But with that, I honestly, I appreciate your, I appreciate your willingness to tackle these situations. And I just want to say thank you. And this one goes out to you, Ralph, and the fact that sometimes you believe that just because people think that you disagree, that you don't support us. And the fact that actually I appreciate the fact that you disagree and you are willing to respectfully disagree with people. And as a board, I think that's a great thing that we have done. And with that, again, I just say thank you for the leadership and guidance that you have given us through this time. And I know we'll get through it. And once again, thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Go ahead, Matt.
Matt Cushel, 830 Roosevelt Street. Get back to work. Almost every industry is working. Why aren't teachers? Why is education not an essential service? Industries are begging to be open. You're begging to be closed. You got a vaccine. You crossed the finish line. All the goalposts that moved, all the shifting reasons, all of the excuses, even the most ardent members of this board who wanted to stay closed, they pegged it on the vaccine. We're waiting on the vaccine. It's here. You have it before anyone else. We're working. You're closed. Students are failing. Mason has already reported elevated fail rates. Students have called into this board to tell you that they're failing. They've told you how they're not able to achieve at the same academic level that they normally would. Online fail rates have been reported twice as high as in-person education instruction. But teachers won't get back to work. You surveyed Mason parents in September, and I note that you haven't surveyed them since to see how things are going. But in September, there was a clear majority, 45% of parents wanted in-person instruction. Second place was online. Third and last place was hybrid instruction, what we're doing now. what you decreed by fiat last week we're going to do until June. At the January meeting, the last time you publicly considered reopening schools, we had 2 votes to reopen and go to full person, full-time, face-to-face instruction. Those votes failed on a 4-3 margin. 2 concerns were expressed. 1, the expected surge from the holidays, and 2, the availability of the vaccine. The surge is over. Hospitals are on a 10-week decline in Michigan. Cases are on a, quote, solid decline for 24 days. Those are the governor's words. Cases are down 73% from their November peak. The positivity rate is below 5% and it's falling. So the surge, it's over. It's gone. The vaccine, it's here. You have it. We are canceling school so that you can get it. So what's different? Dwayne, Evans, Kramer, O'Connor voted no in January. How has it gotten worse since January to remain closed? Get back to work. Childcare, working. School sports, working. Movie theater attendance, working. Bowling alleys, working. Casino attendance, working. My vaccinated school staff, not working. What's your excuse this time? What lie are you going to peddle to parents now?
Ms. Saucer?
My name is Jen Sauser. My address is 3118 Earl Drive in Spring Arbor. I teach at Mason Middle School, and I'm the president of the Teachers Union. Mason Board of Education, I'm speaking tonight to thank you for the decision you made last Monday night. While I know that there are many teachers who are a bit hesitant to reach out to you, they surely don't hesitate to reach out to me and the rest of our union leaders to tell us how they feel. And they did so in record numbers after last Monday night's decision. This is why I'm speaking tonight on behalf of our teachers union and its members. As you know, your decision supported the wishes of the vast majority of our Mason teachers. But what you may not realize was the massive sigh of relief following your decision. To us, your decision confirmed what we've always believed about Mason, that we work in the best district, that our school leadership, all the way up to the top, to the superintendent and the Board of Education, is willing to hear us, to truly listen when it's not easy to do so. Your decision, which I know required a change of heart for some of you, validated our professional experiences and our collective voice. So tonight, amidst the critics of last week's decision, I wanted to make sure to speak out, to be sure that you heard me say that your teachers are thankful. We're thankful for your faith in us, as expressed in your decision last week. We're thankful for your ongoing service to this community as you volunteer to serve as members of our Board of Education. We're thankful for the way you fill this role by expressing a genuine love of our schools, our students, our families, and our community above all else. In return, we all want to be sure that you hear, to be sure that you know, we are thankful for you. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Jen. Do we have any other public comments? All right, seeing none, we will open up again at the end of our meeting. Moving on, special reports and recognition. I see none. Curriculum and instruction. I see nothing there tonight. Communications. Yeah, obviously we received dozens and dozens of communications since our last full board meeting, our regular board meeting. Obviously, expressing concerns about not going back to school full-time in person, also emails supporting the decision to stay hybrid. So just acknowledging those, we do read them all. Also acknowledging our receipt of the petition that was done on Facebook with the signatures regarding going back to school full-time, and as well as the feedback from many parents in our community and some concerns that they brought. So we do read through all of those, and we do appreciate all communications that we get. So again, thank you. Old business, we have none. I get a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, including approval of the minutes of the January 11th, 2021 organizational meeting, February 1st, 2021 special meeting, personnel report number 17, financial report number 18, including payment of general fund bills in the amount of $1,428,496.67, food service fund bills in the amount of $36,145.35, student activity fund bills in the amount of $2,117.27, sinking fund bills in the amount of $4,795, and capital project fund bills in the amount of $140,878.88.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is our committee and superintendent reports. First report is finance and property.
Okay, good evening, everybody. We met last Monday, the 1st at 3 p.m. First item on the agenda was the monthly budget update. Cheryl presented us an update. Everything remains on track. We then got presented by Jeff Souls the Series 2 budget, or the Series 2 bond, site bonds. So we reviewed that. I'll be making a motion on that following this report. We also reviewed the bids that had come in. Really good response on the bids. Committee's very happy with that. I believe that's going to be on Capital Improvement Committee to make all those motions. We discussed the bids in depth, some of the alternates, and the material testing service. Ron or Cheryl, do you want to speak anything about the bond now, or just wait till I make the motion?
Well, we can wait till you make the motion.
Okay. Same thing then on, we reviewed a closing agreement on the 3% retiree healthcare contributions. That one, once I make the motion, Cheryl or Ron can bring us up to speed on that one, because there will be probably some discussion on questions on that. We reviewed the change orders and we adjourned at 4:03. We're gonna, the minutes say we're scheduled to meet virtually on March 1st at 3 p.m. I'm going to, I guess, poll the members, but I would like to return to face-to-face meetings. I don't see the need for virtual meetings. But I guess we'll handle that and other matters by members of the board or somewhere down the line. With that, I'd like to make a motion. I don't have all the verbiage on the draft resolutions. I'd make a motion to authorize the issuance and delegation, the sale of bonds and other matters relating thereto as presented in our materials.
I'll support.
Moved and supported. Any questions, or do we want to hear from Cheryl on the bond process, or Ron? This is issuing our next series of bonds, which has got a timeline laid out to do it. Anybody have any questions on it?
Just so you know, we did have Jeff Souls, our bond attorney, attend our finance committee meeting. Although he didn't have a lot to say because you've already passed the approval of these bonds back in 2017. This is just the second series, and it just delegates it authorizes us to go forward with the second series and delegates to Ron the approval to accept the lowest conforming bid when we take those to market.
Our bond attorney and finance advisor have been working with us for several months now, preparing the timeline and getting us ready for the sale of Series 2 bonds. We are very comfortable with the recommendation in front of you. Our bond counsel has been, obviously very solid and thorough, since day one. And we're looking forward, obviously, to get the second series off and running. We got a nice report with the Capital Improvement Committee coming up in a few minutes towards the end of the agenda, but this allows us to pass the bonds so that we can pay for the work that we're proposing to get done.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Mr.
Aye.
Creamer, I think we have
Aye.
to do a
Oh,
roll
I'm sorry,
call.
I'm sorry. We do. We gotta go roll call on this one.
Yeah.
Thanks, Liz. Go
All
ahead.
right. All right, myself, yes. Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Creamer,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Mumby,
Yes.
Mr. Beebe,
Yes.
and Mr. Dwayne.
Yes.
Right, motion passes 7-0. We have another motion.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the superintendent to sign the IRS closing agreement on 3% retiree health care contributions as presented.
I'll support.
Moved and supported. I guess Cheryl, you want to give us a snapshot on that one?
Sure, I do. Trying to make this short and sweet, which I'll do my best. Back in 2012, the retirement system changed how it was going to be funded, and unilaterally, apparently, assessed a 3% healthcare contribution that was to be paid by employees. There was never a definitive, at that time, there was never a definitive decision made on whether it was a taxable payment or not. So districts throughout the state chose to do what they felt was the best thing to do. Mason took the position that they were not taxable from the beginning, and we did not tax them, and we have not taxed them. Some districts changed in the middle, other taxed them the whole time. So what's happened now is some schools have gone out, and actually DeWitt has been the lead on this, DeWitt Public Schools, and went out and got a, I forgot what the word's called. They got a,
The determination letter?
thank you so much, a determination letter from the IRS that supported what eventually the retirement system said, that this was a non-taxable benefit. So what's happened is schools are wanting to get the IRS, and the IRS has now come out and said, you can sign this closing agreement that we agree that this is a non-taxable benefit, and you, depending on which pot you fall in, and we fall in the, we never taxed it, we haven't taxed it. So we've done everything right since the beginning. We have the ability to sign on to this closing agreement, which is being provided as, it's an option. We aren't required to do it, but we are recommending, the administration, that we sign on to this IRS closing agreement, which protects the decision that the IRS has made that these are a non-taxable benefit, at least through 2026. There's no real reason they should change the decision that they've made. And my understanding is typically we don't have an end date, but for whatever reason, this particular item, they placed an end date on. So with the information we have, which we've gotten from a number of various places, the implication is that most districts are signing on to this. There is a cost, but it is not being paid by the district. It's actually being paid by the retirement system, not specifically to the district. And I also just wanted to share that I did poll the other districts in the Ingham County area, and all of them are also signing on to this IRS closing agreement. It just provides like another layer of protection for this particular issue.
Great, thanks, Cheryl. Any questions from anybody? Any further clarification needed?
Yeah. Hi, Cheryl. Thrun didn't seem too hot on signing this. What's like the risk of signing versus not signing?
That's kind of where my position is. We feel like it just provides an additional layer of security. As you know, Thrun is extremely cautious. A lot of it had to do with the fact that we actually are not privy to actually seeing the document that we are signing, which is a little concerning, but there's a lot of information out there, and there are other attorneys that are not our attorneys that have indicated that they felt that was the direction that they were recommending that their clients take. They just felt that because we couldn't see everything before we had to make a decision to sign it, that's where they felt that there could be some risk. Because we're in what they called the first bucket, which is where we've treated it consistently as non-taxable since the inception of time, we are probably the lowest risk bucket of all of them. But I think it's just their typical natural stature to be as conservative as they can be. And they are. I mean, they feel it's what protects the client. But even other districts in the area who use Thrun as their attorneys basically feel like we have nothing to lose by signing this, and it just provides that extra layer of protection to our employees.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Hearing none, vote carries 7-0. Thanks, Cheryl. Anything else for Ralph tonight? All right, we are moving
Hearing
on. We've got community and staff relations.
Okay, that would be me. We met on January 18th. We met starting at 6 p.m. Michael Kelly, Christopher Mumby, Patrick O'Connor present, Rick Brooks, Superintendent Javisky, Kevin Jones. There were no public comments. Staffing update was provided by Mr. Brooks. Teacher and support staff COVID-19 grants, something from the state of Michigan, supplemental state grants were reported on by Mr. Brooks. Our nice job notes, which we'll go over quickly here in a moment, were presented and discussed. Communications, our superintendent has done an excellent job, in my opinion, and I think others, in documenting and keeping track of all communications. Is something that was requested almost 2 years ago, and he's kept that going, and I think that's very important for us to see as board members. The diversity committee was reported on by our superintendent, Ron, and he provided an update on the committee activities. Various focus groups, interviews with staff were being conducted at the time. Additional diversity professional development is scheduled for February 26th, followed by book studies to start up again this spring. We went into closed session negotiations. Our adjournment was at 7:10 p.m. And any questions? If not, we'll move toward a quick review of nice job notes.
Any questions for Patrick?
Or for any committee members or staff.
All right, let's go to the nice job notes.
Well, I'll lead us off. I had a group from Aladdin to look through, and two that really jumped out at me were nice job notes to Brittany Shards and Kim Stump, thanking them for making the Learning Lab such a successful environment. And you know, as we've seen, it is difficult right now for some students to manage the remote part of the learning or the hybrid or other aspects of their instruction right now. And I know those learning labs have been a huge help in those cases to provide extra instruction. So big shout out to Brittany and Kim for stepping up and making those successful. Thank you very much.
I'll chime in. Excuse me. Recognizing some staff at the middle school and work with our community. Tracy Casali and Rebecca Murray in the middle school art class. Back from December, but delivering gifts and some Christmas cheer to the Green Acres Senior Assisted Living. That's awesome to see our engagement with the community and our taxpayers. So thanks to both of them.
I'll go next. So the group that I like, I followed it over the Christmas period. And it was all the teachers at the high school that put together the 12 Days of Christmas videos. And while the thank you came from Ron, I know that that was something that my group of parents that I affiliate with here in Mason, everybody definitely talked about it. It was just a little bright spot in everybody's day. So I appreciate all the teachers and everybody who had input on that. That was really great.
Liz, I got the same group, similar ones. So I'll just call out a couple names, but Ron did a whole bunch of nice job notes, but I couldn't find a single person who didn't love the 12 days of Christmas. I think we should do the 12 days of every month, just pick 12 days. So if we can find Mr. Conkle and get him working on the 12 days of February, we can throw some Valentine's Day and some other stuff in here. But we had in my group, Mr. Conkle, Mr. Sunderman, Mr. Chapin, Mrs. Schaefer, Mrs. Combs, and Mrs. Kelly. And I think that's about it in my group, but there's a long list of people. Ron, you wrote a lot of thank yous, but I know that my whole family appreciated it too, whether it was trying to catch the geese or watching Mr. Barnum running around in the barn. There was a lot of good stuff there. So we enjoyed it, and I'd like 12 special days every month, please.
I'll jump in quick because I also got the assignment to read off nice job notes. 12 Days of Christmas was the bulk of what I had. If I start naming names, I'll forget somebody. But I will say some of our voices, as a person who spent time closing down bowling alleys, singing karaoke, I'm very impressed by the voices of some of these people. Mr. Cotto stands out. Lance Delbridge has sort of this Bob Dylan sort of vibe going. So bottom line is it was good. It was positive. We needed some smiles. And I deeply appreciate the energy because this is stuff these folks are doing, these teachers doing out of the goodness of their heart. They didn't have to do it. I also like the fact that we had cows and chickens in there as a farm kid. So thank you all for putting that together. It was a wonderful thing.
Yeah, Ron, you did a lot of notes because I got a lot of yours also in here. You know, and it's always a bit awkward trying to pick out one or two to highlight when they're, you know, they all deserve to be recognized. But I've got two that Ron sent out that I will highlight just for a second. One to Betsy Collins and another one to Matt Slezak. And you know, Ron acknowledged some of the work they've done above and beyond and some of the compliments that they've gotten from parents. But I chose to pick them out because my son has both of them as teachers, and I know they have literally answered dozens and dozens of my emails over the last month, and they're always extremely prompt in their work and offers to help out are much appreciated. So again, just two examples of great teachers we have. Anybody left? Michael, you there? We've lost your picture.
Yep.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, I got a bad connection. So I did read a nice collection of notes pointing out the excellent work that the support staff at the Harvey Education Center provide. And it's quite a range of services from supporting childcare program to maintaining COVID supplies, supporting the activities of the early learning program, kindergarten aides, and even doing laundry. So it's a great group that is involved with supporting the efforts at the Harvey Education Center.
Great, I think that's everyone. I guess anything else on Patrick's report out?
No, just that we will be meeting next week, Monday, the 16th, I'm sorry, the 15th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Patrick. Policy and curriculum.
Sorry. All right, we met on January 25th. We started at 5:30. We actually did have public comment. We heard from Mrs. Thomas, who is a teacher in the district, discussing wanting the diversity piece to be ramped up relatively quickly. So that was, it was nice to hear from her and her perspective as a parent and as a community member. We discussed a couple pieces of Neola policy. One, the first that we had talked about with having a new board member on the committee, we kind of talked about and touched base on some pieces of policy just as to where it stands as a community member with social media and things like that. We also discussed recording of meetings again. So it had previously come to the committee and we had discussed recording of whole board meetings, but then we discussed how when we have emergency meetings or special meetings, such as the ones that we've been having with regards to like the back to school plans and different things like that, they're pretty important. And so we felt that it would be best to bring it back, and we discussed it as a committee, and I'll be making a motion here in a minute, but we did decide as a committee that it would be best not to start recording the committee meetings, but that the whole board meetings and any special meetings or emergency meetings where the whole board is in attendance. So when you have a quorum and when we're all making decisions for the district and the community, that it's best to be transparent and have those conversations with as many people to be able to see them on their availability as possible. Like I said, I'll be making a motion on that in a moment. We did discuss Neola policy 0152, which as we were kind of going through it, Ron, we kind of caught up on some of these things that the bylaws say that the executive board of our board should be reviewed every year, but our board functions every 2. And so that policy is not going to be up for a second reading because it's just a clerical error to make sure that it matches what the actions of our board are. So that it brings it back up so that they're both congruent with 2 years on the executive board seats. We did kind of just do a recap about policy pieces and curriculum pieces. While not everything has been up and running as far as getting new curriculum and out with this wonderful school year that we've been having and all of the changes and everything else, we did kind of talk that there are still some things in the parking lot, that there still is talk of math curriculum, science curriculum, discussing how diversity will play into pieces of curriculum. With that moving forward, and the reproductive health curriculum is still something that has not been adopted into the classroom setting yet. We got an update from Mr. Stewart on professional development and technology. Also, how the diversity committee, Dr. Tishner and Matt and all those folks are going to be doing PDs coming up at the end of the month, and they're very excited for all of that, and the folks that are going to be presenting there. I know there's a lot of interest and a lot of positivity behind all that, so that should be really great. We talked, Mr. Stewart presented on the Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement Process, talking about the data and how all of the improvements and everything, and if we have questions at the end, I'm gonna actually ask for Matt to be the point of contact on that topic. We got an update on the Capital Area District Library that every one of our students was enrolled to have a free library card, and the principals were going to be working it down in their buildings for every student across the district to be able to use the online resources and to be able to check out tactile books if they wanted to. We also got an update on the diversity committee, and I sit on that, so I provided some information too. We had a nice discussion about that, and we adjourned at 6:37, and our next meeting will be February 22nd.
Great. Thanks, Liz. Any questions on the minutes? Okay, let's move on to motions.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to record all regular meetings, special meetings, and emergency meetings of the Board of Education when possible, beginning February 9th, 2021.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? I guess, Liz, I do have one question on it. Was it discussed how this would be done when we are no longer on Zoom?
So we did talk about the use of the technology that's at City Hall, and that is why there's also a disclaimer in the motion to say when possible, because there are going to be times where we've had to meet, for example, when there was an election and we had to go meet at Steele, and there wasn't necessarily the capacity while we were in the Steele library for us to be able to record. So there could be a random exception to that, but that the majority of the meetings where there's going to be the bulk of us, where there's a quorum and we're making whole district decisions instead of just a committee discussion, that it would typically be in the City Hall large room where we would be able to.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
No problem.
Any other questions?
Just a quick comment, if I could. I'm very enthused about this motion. This is rooted in some of the conversations we had months ago when I was on that on the Policy and Curriculum Committee. Came out of that with great enthusiasm, and I think this was just an oversight when we didn't consider special meetings, emergency meetings. So this sort of cleans that up. I'm enthused. I'll support this. I'll be supporting in a moment. You'll hear.
Very good.
All right. Any further discussion?
Well, and just to point out too, and echo what Liz shared, we are dependent on location, right, to the tape. And then also staffing, obviously for an emergency meeting, it might be difficult to get, a filming or taping crew on short notice, because sometimes they can be called, within 24 hours. And same with special, we'll certainly do everything we can to make sure we got staff to record, but know that there might be exceptions every now and then for those reasons.
Perfect. Any further discussion?
Could Liz read the resolution back one more time?
So I said that I'd like to make a motion to approve and record all regular meetings, special meetings, and emergency meetings of the Board of Education when possible, beginning February 9th, 2021, and it was supported by Mr. O'Connor.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, anything further? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
And I'd like to make a motion to approve the technical correction to Neola Policy 0152 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion?
This is the one, just want to make sure that people are understanding, this is the one that brings the policy and our how we work as a board up to the 2-year standings for the executive board seats, the organizational meeting.
Right. The policies actually said in one place 1 year, and another place it said 2 years. So they were
Right.
contradictory, but they've always been 2 years
Correct.
going back as long as I know.
Yeah.
So
So I guess point of discussion here, our organizational meeting in January was the beginning of a 2-year cycle. Is that correct?
Yes. And we've been functioning in 2-year cycles. It was just caught that in this piece of policy, it said 1. So now this piece of policy is just congruent with everything.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Anything further, Liz?
That's tonight. Thank you.
Capital Improvement Committee.
I'm going to unmute since I have to talk for a while. I don't want to just press the space bar to temporarily unmute because later I'm going to have 22 motions to make. So I'll start with just a brief recap. Hopefully I don't turn into Darth Vader before I get through the motions. Like the Finance and Property Committee, we had a lot of similar discussions, but I'll start with, we met January 28th, 6:01 we started, and we had some, sorry, lost my train of thought. We had some staff present, no public comment. We had a bid day summary and a bunch of recommendations for contract awarding, and I'll be talking about those in a few moments. After we talked about the regular items, we discussed some mandatory alternates and some voluntary alternates. I'll have some motions, I think, on those too. They're probably part of the 22. Talked about material testing, and then we reviewed change orders and authorization allowances that dealt with the kind of the final closeouts of the other buildings. Had some communications, and really the focus of the communications were centered around the display board and the images that are going to be shared for the new Steel Street Elementary School. It looks fantastic. And I don't know when we're going to start sharing that, but probably close to groundbreaking or shortly before. So just a couple of months from now. It was a short meeting. We adjourned at 6:56 p.m. and I'll entertain questions before the 22 motions begin.
Anything for Christopher?
I do want to add that Rob Crow from Chrisman and Rich Dar from More Trosper are on the call in case you have any questions as we go through the list. I know both of them were present when it was reviewed by the CIC committee as well as the Property and Finance Committee. So some board members are seeing this for the third time. I do want to mention before we get into a series of motion and action items that we were very pleased with the results of the bond bid. Tremendous work by our GMB team, our Chrisman team, and our More Trosper team to make sure they were packaged accordingly and in the right way. And of course, the participation was, I think, one of the best that we've seen. So, Rob, if you could just mention briefly your thoughts on our bid opening.
Thanks, Ron. Yep. For those that we haven't met, my name is Rob Crow. I'm project executive with the Chrisman Company. And I don't want to take a lot of time, but really just to say that this was, in my experience, I've been doing K-12 work for the better part of the last 5 years. And this one event was the most well bid and well participated in by the local trade contractor community that I've seen, hands down. I mean, we had some categories that had 10, 9 bidders that submitted the proposal, which is really fantastic. We're usually hoping for 3 or 4, and really a lot of good turnout here. So thanks to the design team, thanks for More Trosper and their contributions, and then just generally the school district for being a well-respected and known client that people really want to do good work for. So it's really an awesome thing. Thanks.
As a result, we captured some savings because of the competitive bid process, and so that's obviously good news. I mean, we're just starting the construction process, so but we are in a good place to move forward budgetarily and obviously complete all the work that we want to do, but certainly potentially down the road, if everything works out to our advantage, maybe do a few more things, smaller things that maybe we couldn't have done had we didn't have such an outstanding competitive bid process. So it's working to our advantage.
Any other questions before I start motions? Obviously, there'll be an opportunity for discussion after each one is seconded. Okay, I'll begin here. First, I'd like to make a motion to award for earthwork, site utilities, and site demo from LD Clark for the base bid amount of $1,198,890 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for site concrete from Eastland for the base bid amount of $302,200 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for asphalt paving from Quality Asphalt for the base bid amount of $193,120 as presented, sorry.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
I think it
No.
was 6-1.
We have an opposed vote on that?
Either that or a delayed aye by Michael.
I thought it was a delayed aye. Again, let me, again, all those in favor, aye, please.
Aye.
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 Opposed? Perfect. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, the next one is fencing. I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for fencing from DK Fence for the base bid amount of $68,450 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I would like to make a motion to award the bid for landscaping from Anderson Fisher for the base bid amount of $223,800 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for structural concrete from Lucas Concrete for the base bid amount of $586,842 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, the final concrete one here. I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for precast concrete from Kirkstra for the base bid amount of $208,750 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I would like to make a motion to award the bid for masonry from Schiffer for the base bid amount of $1,822,000 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
I think we're about halfway through. I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for structural steel from FCC Construction for the base bid amount of $520,000 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I would like to make a motion to award the bid for roofing from Versatile Roofing for the base bid amount of $285,220 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I would like to make a motion to award the bid for metal panels from Wolverine Enclosures for the base bid amount of $263,940 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I would like to make a motion to award the bid for glass, glazing, and aluminum entrances from Lansing Glass for the base bid amount of $497,248 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I would like to make a motion to award the bid for general trades from Dobie Construction for the base bid amount of $944,900 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I would like to make a motion to award the bid for walls and ceilings from Reichenbach for the base bid amount of $446,400 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for hard tile from, I may say this wrong, Ritsema Associates for the base bid amount of $93,530 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I would like to make a motion to award the bid for flooring from Superior Floor Coverings for the base bid amount of $283,777 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Almost there. I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for painting and wall covering from H&H Painting for the base bid amount of $150,725 as presented.
Support.
Been supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
This one's for the kids. I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for playground equipment from Play Environments for the base bid amount of $111,690 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I would like to make a motion to award the bid for mechanical and plumbing systems from Professional Thermal Systems for the base bid amount of $3,301,000 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I would like to make a motion to award the bid for electrical systems from United Electrical for the base bid amount of $1,330,000 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? I would request that I abstain from this vote due to a potential conflict of interest on a financial basis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I have abstained, so vote is 6-0.
Okay, I think I'm to the last two. So I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for material testing services from Intertech PSI for the base bid amount of $35,315 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for hazardous material abatement from Mid-State Removal for the base bid amount of $277,000 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I think that is the end of the motions I have to make for Capital Improvement Committee tonight. Are there any questions or am I off the hook for now?
Chris, did we, was fire protection, that bid was not open? Did we miss that or did I miss that?
I think maybe we can have Rob answer the couple bids that are being rebid. So Rob can explain kind of the thought behind it. There are a couple that not make a motion on tonight.
Great question. I should have probably mentioned that prior to, so I apologize for that. There were two categories that were out to bid with this broader group that we have based or made a recommendation and the committees have reviewed to rebid those categories. One was the demolition category, which will be reclassified, broken into two separate scopes. It is out to rebid currently. That'll be a mass demolition and then a selective demolition package. We believe we'll get much more participation in that. And then the other was the fire protection category that you asked about. So that category was bid. We received one proposal on bid day, which was kind of the anomaly of all the other categories that received many. So the decision was made to not open it. That proposal was returned to the bidder and we've re-advertised it and it's again on the street. So we're anticipating much more participation here. Those bids are due on February 24th. So we will get 3 more categories back to come to you at a future board meeting.
Thank you.
Anything else for Christopher? All right, perfect. Thanks. Moving on, superintendent's report.
Well, I have one item for you tonight. We just wrapped up interviews last week, a second round of interviews for our vacant CFO position. Fortunately, Cheryl's been filling in for us after many years in the field, but certainly quite a few in Mason. So she was kind enough to jump in and help us out for the last several months. And so we're very appreciative of her help. But we did interview a handful of candidates last week. I do want to thank Kurt for helping and assisting with the interview process, as well as Rick and Matt and Angie Vandekar helped as well. Cheryl was part of that interview team. So very robust interview process. We were very pleased to have a top candidate. Matter of fact, it was a consensus agreement that Tracy Wooden, who's currently the business manager over in Stockbridge, was our number one choice. She comes to us with a plethora of experience, many years in finance with schools. One thing that I particularly liked is, coming from a smaller district, even smaller than Stockbridge prior to that, you get your fingers and hands in so many other aspects of the district operation. So her experience with transportation, building and grounds, all those kinds of things will pay us dividends down the road, even though that won't necessarily be specifically her role, but certainly those kinds of things come across that desk quite often. So Tracy's joining us here this evening. You can see her now on the call. So Tracy, if you could just share a few words and it'd be appreciated.
Well, I want to thank you for this opportunity to come work for Mason Public Schools. I've been in school finance over 23 years. As I told the interview committee, my daughter graduated. She was a senior last year, and now she's at Alpena on a softball scholarship. So for me, the timing was right to make a move, and my long-term goal has always been to work for a larger district, and I finished my master's last spring and just figured this was the right move for me at the right time. And I look forward to working with each of you.
Great. Thanks, Tracy. Really excited to have you on board. Anything else, Ron?
That's it. We just need a
Okay.
motion from the president.
I'm sorry, what's that?
We need you to make a motion, please. Approve the contract.
I got it in front of me, Kurt. I'd like to
Go ahead,
a
make it. I don't have that one in front of me.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract for Chief Financial Officer as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect. The motion passes 7-0.
Cheryl is clapping and jumping up and down, and a huge smile on her face. Tracy, you should be a little bit worried. I heard that there was going to be some overlap though. So Cheryl, you're not done yet.
No, I'm not. I told her I would be available as much or as little as she wanted, and I'm really excited to leave the district in such good hands.
Tracy coming on board in April, correct? So we got a little bit of time for you to wrap things up in our neighboring district.
Actually, March 29th.
Yep.
So she'll have some time to work with Cheryl. And, we certainly extended as much time as Stockbridge needed. We don't want to put them in a pickle by any means. So I think it'll work out for both parties.
Welcome to Mason.
Congratulations, Tracy.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other items for tonight, Ron?
That's all I have.
Introduction of other matters by board members.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to chime in here, and I will try to keep it short and sweet. I guess I'm just a little concerned after I have a ton of concerns after last week's meeting, but I left that meeting, dissatisfied with where we are, but that's life. But also left it with the feeling that maybe there's still a heartbeat. It might not be a strong heartbeat, but there was a heartbeat in there. And the administration was going to be looking into how classes could get back to more face-to-face and full-time. And I guess the messaging that went out the day after the board meeting struck me as saying, oh, we've made the decision and this is the decision for the rest of the year. And there was nothing in that messaging about relooking occasionally, about striving to get back no matter what. I just felt that message left me a little confused, and it was not the meeting that I thought we attended. I guess we've had internal communications, I believe, on failure rates. I guess I would ask that as part of every continuing board meeting while we're still in a hybrid model, that failure rates within the district are presented and discussed. I think that's an important metric that our public knows those rates. And I guess my couple last questions. One would be, what is our COVID vaccine participation rate? I think that's another good metric that we should be at least aware of. I know the final shot was today for a lot of people, but I'd be very interested in the next meeting what our staff participation actually was, because we went ahead of a whole bunch of people. So I hope we had a very robust participation rate. And then, as I said, committee meetings, I would like to go back face to face. I'm not sure what the law is currently or the recommendations, but if we can, as committee chair, I would request for my fellow members that we go back to face. And I would sure love to see us go back face to face for full board meetings. And I would actually, as long as I'm on a roll, I would request that we have a special board meeting in 2 weeks to look at where we're at with the full-time return to school. If there's been further partitions purchased, if there's been, action plans, how those action plans are progressing for the hope to get us back full-time face-to-face without social distancing, but yet safely. I don't want to see us just wait a month and say, oh, we've made the decision, let's just kick the can and wait a month.
I do want to jump in here a little bit to at least answer a few of the questions, Mr. Beebe. In our minutes for the special meeting, as part of the discussion, the board directed the administration to focus on opportunities to increase in-person instruction for vulnerable students. And so Learning Labs is one example of that, but we are in the process now of looking at additional ways for students who need it most to potentially come back to more in-person learning. So that's been happening since the meeting last week. And I know the next time we chat, we'll be able to report out a little bit more. We just finished, the middle school and high school registration. So now they'll be able to start building a master schedule for third trimester. And, certainly once that's in place, we'll be able to at least report out on how that's progressing. Every month we need to review and approve the COVID-19, the extended COVID-19 learning plan. So it'll be a topic of discussion monthly until they tell us not, but certainly until June. After that, I'm not quite sure if that's something we'll be having to continue to do. So we did have 344 people sign up for the vaccine. I can't, that's not information that's disclosed to me, but that's so many names we forwarded to Sparrow. I'm assuming most of them would have gotten the vaccine. I can't say for sure, but that's the number that we forwarded on. We have close to 500 employees in the district in different capacities, obviously, and filling different roles. In person, I do believe that we're prohibited by law to have in-person meetings, I think for another week or two, I believe. Not quite sure on the exact date, but I can look that up and get that to the board in a couple days. So I do know that the current legislation says we can't, but I don't think there's anything past that yet at this point. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it. And if the board desires to, we certainly can meet in person if the board desires, and obviously the law allows us to. So I think that touched on most of your items, Mr. Beebe.
Yeah, thanks.
I guess I'd like to make just a follow-up to that. There was a request for a special meeting in 2 weeks. And I guess my personal opinion is I disagree with the meeting to be in 2 weeks. Just my thought, because we voted for the hybrid option to open back up for the start of third trimester, which is March 15th. And so I guess I look at a meeting in 2 weeks and that new hybrid where parents just chose is still not even something that's tangible or functioning yet. So the thought of having a meeting in 2 weeks, we have the plan in place. Our teachers are moving forward with it. Our administration is moving forward with it. Our families are moving forward with it. There is no plan that's going to meet 100% of our community. But at the end of the day, the CDC, the medical professionals, those that are understanding what's going on, even with vaccines, are saying that social distancing cannot go away. Social distancing must be maintained, even with the vaccinated population. That is one of the main things, 3 or 4 things that has to be maintained, and that's still there. So I guess I would disagree with the piece of requesting a meeting or having a meeting in 2 weeks, because the thing that we've just offered to the families hasn't even begun.
Right. And Liz, I mean, respectfully, I'm not saying, to change, but to say we're just going to put our heads in the sand when, we keep hearing pandemic, never been in these times. If we can't get together every 2 weeks, like we talked about months ago, that we would have as many meetings as this took, and we were all in on it. And hey, if we got to meet every week, we're going to track all this stuff and we're going to see where we're going. And now we're saying, oh, heck, we made the decision, we're done. We need to, what's going on with at-risk kids? What are those failure rates? How are they changing? Maybe we need to pivot, maybe we don't. But without talking and discussing, we're certainly not going to do anything.
Yeah, I don't disagree with having a special meeting as long as we have something new to discuss. That's my only concern is we seem to have the same conversation quite frequently without a lot of new information being presented or discussed there. So if we have something new to discuss, new program or new information we want to add to that, I think that's definitely worthwhile. I think we do need to be cognizant, though, that there's more than one angle of concern on this, and a big one is the practicality and the quality of the education bringing back to full time. Even assuming levels, or infection rates drop, we get a bunch of plastic partitions. That doesn't change the fact that our teaching staff, the experts on delivering the curriculum, have told us that under the current high flex organization, going back to 4 days with the purple plan is completely untenable. So if we want to raise the specter of re-rostering students again for the last 3 months of the year, that would be something we'd have to raise, I think, to look at that, seriously. We've kind of tap danced around bringing that up, though. I think that's something that needs to come up, though, if we want to continue to seriously talk about this.
Well, and I have agreement with everyone who's spoken so far, and at least in part, with Mrs. Evans. I agree with many things you said. It's hard to meet and discuss something we haven't put into place yet. I understand that. And I certainly understand that more meetings can give future angst to teachers that just expressed their relief to us this week, that they think they know what they're doing for the rest of the year. But on the same token, we have new angst from parents who have expressed that this has just taken away all hope for their senior, for their kindergartner, for whatever, for the rest of the year. So I'm willing to meet as many times as possible, every 2 weeks, whatever it takes, whether it's evaluating how other districts have managed to make a move back and why we can't, or anything like that. I'm willing to look at it. I still want to respect the opinions and expertise of the folks we employ, but I want us to keep looking for every possible way to offer a mode of instruction that meets our students' and parents' needs in a safe manner. So I can support Ralph's request to meet more often. That's what we, why we're in office is to meet and make decisions. So I'm okay with extra meetings. I agree with Steve that there should be something to discuss. It shouldn't just be a meeting, but we have no idea what it's going to be about. But folks know that that I voted in favor of hybrid for the rest of the year, despite that not being a good solution for my family. So it was a tough decision for me too, and I know it's a tough decision for many folks. But I'm willing to meet as many times as necessary to try to do the best that we can for our community.
I also believe that there would be plenty of things to discuss. We mentioned a few here this evening, including maybe ongoing discussion of failure rates or successes, as the case may be. But up to this point, as I've noted before, most of our discussions as a board have been focused around the number of kids that we're going to bring to our school or remove from the school. I think one of the things that we need to stay on top of and maybe have additional discussions are modifications to our instructional strategies. For example, there was a lot of talk about making our system a little bit more flexible. A lot of re-rostering and scheduling and pivot challenges, I think, are a consequence of the instructional delivery strategies that we've implemented. For example, how many teachers are dedicated to just online students? Are we scheduling them separately from the other kids? Are we using classrooms, just to host online delivery as opposed to actual in-classroom students? I mean, those are things that perhaps we could adjust without changing our vote as a board, but something that we can reanalyze and maybe shore up a little bit, because flexibility in terms of allowing families to return or remove or have the whole district pivot is something that has come up with the reopening and reimagining committee. It's been mentioned in board meetings. Those are the types of things that are more specific to our implementation strategy that I think could be a subject for further discussion in a couple of weeks.
Any other matters from the board? I'll put it out there just kind of on a completely different note. I know, this last week, it's been stressful in a lot of ways, and we got those cards from the CDI classroom for Halloween and put a smile on my face. So thank you to the classroom and the kids that did that for us. So that was a nice email to get last week.
Other matters on a positive note, the MSU Federal Credit Union Art Program is underway. We've got a number of Mason students who've entered. So Ms. Combs, Ms. Harrington sent us, actually, I think I got this off of Facebook, even though I've been avoiding Facebook. We have the ability to vote. So you can go to the MSU Federal Credit Union Art.com, MSUFCUart.com, and you can vote for Mason kids who've entered their art. You can see the art. I think it's a wonderful thing. We get excited about a lot of the athletics in Mason. We also have a wonderful arts program here. So this is a chance to get involved and support Mason kids by voting. Last year, Allison French was the top winner. She was from Mason, Michigan. And this is a district-wide, mid-Michigan-wide competition. I've been to it before. I get to walk around and sip Kool-Aid and look at art. Made me feel very important, but it's a beautiful event, a wonderful event. It's going to be online this year for obvious reasons, but check that out. Just wanted to mention that tonight. Thank you.
Any other matters? Moving on, other matters from superintendent.
I have one more matter before you tonight, and that's for you to select a Region 7 representative for MASB. I know Patrick has some thoughts on that, so I'm going to turn it over to Patrick.
Well, I am liaison for this board to MASB, Michigan Association of School Boards. It's an honor to be the liaison. I've enjoyed it. I try and represent our district well, and just wanted to say that I've gone through the bios. I think everyone had gotten the biographies. Before any motions made, I'm just going to say that I would recommend Dale Wingard from Clinton as the person we would vote for. By the way, we vote as a full board. So we would vote, we would choose someone, and then the district then votes. So we don't have 7 votes. We actually have 1 vote as a body. Dale Wingard, the reasons being, he's actually the incumbent in this seat. MASB is a good organization. I believe it runs well, runs smooth. So there's the power of incumbency just from the standpoint of stability at a crazy time. He's had a lot of the MASB coursework. He's at a high level. Platinum level or something, which means he's been through I believe every course that they offer through their certified board member. Plus he's been involved in a lot of the conferences and those types of things. He's had the longest service of any of these candidates. He's been on his school board for 15 years. He is the only candidate who's been a president of his school board, and he's been a president there in Clinton for 7 years. So that would be my recommendation, but I am not the only one here on the board. So if others have thoughts, I would certainly ask those thoughts to be heard.
Thanks, Patrick. I can support that recommendation. So do you have any other comments or thoughts from anybody?
Only quickly, I recognize Jack Tempsey as another candidate that I think was on the last time we looked at. Similar credentials. In fact, he's been president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer of his board during his 7 years on the board. So, and he looks to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just about as much or more MASB experience and training. So he'd be a good other candidate. I can support and certainly respect the research that Patrick has done, but I recognize Jack Tempsey from Potterville as a previous candidate for this position. So I know he must be interested in it. So I'm okay with Patrick's recommendation tonight, but could also support Jack in this case.
Any other thoughts? Or...
I do recognize every one of these candidates. I recognize them all, but they're all excellent candidates, I believe. And Jack Tempsey also, I do recall him from the last time. And I still appreciate, I think, what a small district voice. And actually, I do consider Mason a small district relative to some others, and what that can bring. And it's a neighboring, it's a neighbor here. So I can appreciate, some of the struggles that they've had to deal with in Eaton County. So I think that would add some value for sure as well.
I appreciate those comments, and I also had recognized that opportunity for that candidate to be a part of it. But I'm one of 7 board members here, and my thoughts would be Dale Wingard would be our person. So I would like to make the motion for Dale Wingard to vote for us to vote for Dale Wingard for the MASB Region 7 Board of Directors as presented.
We have support?
I'll support.
Moved and supported. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Any other matters from superintendent?
That's all.
Okay, public requests and comments. Again, anybody who would like to have make a comment, please raise your hand. When called upon, please state your full name and address. Comments should be kept to 5 minutes, directed at the board as a whole. And if you spoke at the first public comment, you cannot speak again. So go ahead, Lane.
Ms. Henfling?
Hello there. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Go ahead.
Perfect. My name is Tiffany Hunfling. I live at 177 Primrose Lane in Mason. I am a 7th grade science teacher here in Mason. And I also have a 3rd grader at Steele and a future Bulldog who's 3. And I just wanted to first off thank all of you for everything that you're doing. I'd like to come back in after Mr. Haney kind of saying that as well. And I'd also like to formally invite any of you to come and attend my class. I think it's really useful if you're going to be looking at how things are going, to have some, live examples of what is going on in the classroom in all 3 levels of buildings throughout the district at this time in the school year. I know that many people made observations in the fall, which is wonderful. But obviously we are continuing to learn and improve our craft, and I would love to have you come in and see what all of us are doing. I'm sure there's many staff members that would love to have you come visit, and I would personally like to invite all of you to my classroom.
Great, thanks, Tiffany.
Mr. Port?
Good evening. This is Alex Port, 2308 Stonehenge Drive in East Lansing. I also teach at the middle school. I wanted to thank the board for its decision last week. You've undoubtedly have heard and are continuing to hear from many frustrated parents. I don't think that any of them are coming from a place of malice towards you or the teachers. What I think a lot of them are saying is, my child is in pain. My family is suffering, please help us. And I wish there was a good solution, but all of us, including our children, have been living through the most life-changing public health crisis in a century. The fact is, our schools aren't equipped to help students process and cope with the trauma of our current world. And I personally don't think that more in-person school will fix it. I know that members of this board have talked about wanting to try other options and also have expressed a deep concern for mental health. But I think that just saying more in-person time will be at best a temporary cover-up of these issues without really addressing them, and at worst, a significantly more risky to our student and community health. I hope tonight to be able to provide you with some new ideas, as Mr. Duane and Mr. Kelly talked about earlier, for your future discussions that might help students' mental health challenges right now. Number 1, let's stay the course for hybrid learning. This option, I think, provides the best option for social distancing and will be the most consistent for families. Number 2, let's invest in mental health resources and professionals. like more school counselors, social workers, and psychologists. We have fabulous teachers, but we are not trained to help students process the intense feelings they are having right now. Feelings like fear of COVID, loss of confidence from having low grades and not being able to get help, frustration at the mounting homework, mourning for a lost year, or even worse, loved ones. Students can't learn when they are under such emotional duress like that. And for a lot of them, those feelings are still there, whether they are in person or not. I have students in person now whom I expected to do much better once they were there in the building, but they haven't because the damage to their psyche was already done. We currently have incredible mental health support staff, but they were stretched too thin before the pandemic. There are not nearly enough trained professionals or resources to be able to help our whole student body now that they all have to work through the collective trauma of life interrupted. Let's also invest in professional development on trauma-informed instruction for teachers so that we are also much more prepared to help our students. This would be not be in replacement of the diversity training, but in addition to it. Number 3, let's place as much importance on the arts and specials as we do core subjects. I know that may sound biased for me given what I do, but I also know that students need a creative, expressive, and/or athletic outlet now more than ever. It can be tempting to say, let's just focus on math and ELA right now, but that removes some of the things that keep students motivated right now, which for some of them is a big part of why they come to school. And lastly, 4, let's advocate at the state government level to lessen the workload on teachers so that we have more time to actually help our students. Did you know, for example, that I have to spend about an hour of collective time each week logging student attendance for the state? That's time I could be planning or helping my students. Did you also know that teachers are still being evaluated on effectiveness based on last year's pre-pandemic rubric? I think our administrators who do the grading are doing an excellent job of being understanding, but even so, according to that state mandated teacher grading scale, I am being evaluated on how effectively I am teaching curricular standards to students who are bearing the emotional weight of a global pandemic. That's not fair to teachers or the students who deserve a much more compassionate education system right now. So I hope you will consider these points in your future discussions, and I hope that parents will be able to join me in speaking up about these issues as well. I think the challenges our students face right now are so much more complex than just not being physically present in the building every day, and it's going to take all of us to be able to help them. Thank you again for last week's decision, for your time this evening, and for your work on the school board.
Thanks, Alex.
Michael?
Hi, Michael Coate, 951 North Jefferson Street. My initial comments were going to be talk about the failure rates. And it's this multifaceted problem. It's completely systemic of the current situation we're in. And I don't think that, just flipping the lever of instruction going from 2 days to 4 days necessarily solves the situation. But Mr. Port kind of eloquently and very matter-of-factly kind of addressed all of those points. So I think those are the kind of solutions that we as a community would love to hear the board talking about. Second, CDC guidelines for ventilation in schools are expected to come out this week on Wednesday, is what the president said in an interview yesterday. So let's look for those. And what I would ask the board to do is when those come out, let's encourage the school district to start a web page, sort of like, on the district homepage, where we can go point by point and say, hey, this is where we exceed the CDC guidelines, or maybe this is where we need to improve, and be very transparent and systematic about where we stand as a school district, school by school, room by room. I think that's a big part of this equation that's sort of missing. Invest in some CO2 monitors. I had a great phone conversation earlier today with Mr. Chujo talking about the importance of how a $200 CO2 monitor can measure the parts per million of carbon dioxide in a room, especially thinking about the concern of unmasked eating times in cafeterias or the libraries, other places where that's eating. And you can look at that and see real time what the values are. To my knowledge, that has not been done yet. That would be a great step in kind of sharing that information. And finally, I just wanted to say, as somebody who's really made a point to attend every single board meeting, as many as the subcommittees as I can, I don't think that your in-person board meeting that you had in the fall was any more efficient or had better outcomes than any of your recorded meetings or your kind of streamed meetings. It wasn't a better experience. I don't know that it was necessarily a better experience for you. Maybe you thought it was a more collaborative environment, but it certainly didn't seem that way to me. It's much easier to hear all of you from your home. For anybody that has accessibility concerns, they can read your lips. They won't be able to do that when you're wearing a mask in a public meeting place. And I think it also, again, sends the wrong message. And I do believe, Mr. Beebe, this is a little bit of your push for everything in person. Right now the guidelines are you do what you can from home. If you don't have a solution, that's when you go to a remote situation. And you have a solution right now that seems to be working. So I would encourage the board to continue to meet this way. I think it's a better experience for people that are trying to follow you in the community. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Michael. Do we have any further public comment? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion. Go ahead. Support.
You get that, Liz?
Yes.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:33. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night, all.
Night all.
Bye.
Aye.